It's kind of a response to Gary, Doom, Bloom, Boom, Goom, Shoom, Shaboom channel, whatever it is. It's a response from sunny Southport, kind of. I'm in the sand dunes. Southport is that direction, on the coast of, west coast of England. Crosby is down there, which is where I'm walking toward. And I'm in the sand dunes near there. On this blisteringly hot English day. Yeah, it's I guess it's kind of a response, but it's really about YouTube more generally, Gary. You just kind of prompted something I was thinking about a while back, because you seem to be saying in that video, a most recent video of yours that I looked at, well, it seemed to be a bit of a lament really about how few views your video are getting. I mean, I might be simplifying beyond the data, but that's what you seem to be saying. You know, you've done all this effort. You know, you've made this body of work, thousands of videos on all these different channels, put a great deal of effort into finding ways to articulate your philosophy in all different kinds of ways, refining the metaphors, organising the rhetorical strategies that you've got for delivering that language, finding convincing examples, finding good responses to questions, all that kind of stuff really. And after all that effort, your video is only getting 200 or 300 views, which, you know, is more than most of mine get, but that's, you know, that's fine. You have been going a lot longer than I, so that would be kind of expected. And I say kind of because I'm not sure if it is entirely expected, because I think we have a tendency here, in which I guess you're reflecting, to equate success, you know, with numbers, you know, particularly viewing numbers, less so subscriber numbers as well, but I guess less so because it's view counts that are really important, isn't it? But I'm not sure if that's the best metric really, best way of measuring, particularly in this kind of, when we're working in a kind of community, you know, where lots of subscribers overlap with one another, and what we individually do keeps showing up in one another's activity streams, that kind of a thing. And I suppose what it's reminded me of is something that I meant to comment on a while back when I don't know, there was some kind of fuss going on. It was either Pat Condell or it was something to do with Thunderfoot. There was some kind of fuss happening. And Coughlin did a video about it. And one of the things he said in this video was, let's say it was Pat Condell, he said, I wish other people would get on board with this. You know, he was getting some flack for being critical about Pat Condell, I think. And he was saying, why aren't other people getting on board with this? And I left a comment saying, well, actually, you know, several people have. Ujima Flipper did one, Dancing with Napalm. Symbolic, you know, one or two other people, and Coughlin came back with the comment that yeah, but he really meant the bigger users. And I think he was really pointing to people like Zomgits Chris and Amazing Atheist, and I didn't think anything of it particularly at the time, but I thought later, I just thought, well, actually, again, is that the best way of measuring success? By, you know, it appearing on the, you know, on the list of videos made by somebody who's got a large subscription list. So I'm just not sure it is really. You know, if TJ does a video about some topic, sure, it shows up on your inbox or whatever, you know, it shows up as a topic. But then it just vanishes really, because he moves on to something else. His subscribers are largely consumers, you know, because the subscribers of all the large channels are largely consumers. Consume that, and then it moves on to something else. But I think it's a little bit different when you're talking about relatively tightly knit communities. And I say relatively because it's still pretty damn loose. But relatively tightly knit communities of overlapping interests. Because certainly what I was seeing during that same thing, the thing with Pat Condell, which I was kind of referring to, isn't that you know, isn't that there's this one item that somebody had mentioned, some user with lots of subscribers had mentioned, but references to this same issue kept coming up over and over again in my activity stream. You know, it's, this person would make a video about it, this other person would make a video about it. It would appear on the favourites list or on the liked list of something else, and the videos just kept recirculating for a couple of weeks actually. You know what I mean? It was like it wasn't like a sudden spike in the interest. It was kind of an ongoing, rolling level of interest, which sustained for quite a long time actually. And I think that's got a particular power of its own, I think. You know, and it's not because these individual users are distributing to thousands of people. Each of those people who are making videos, the people I've mentioned, and I made one, or two other people made them. You know, only just with a couple of 100 subscribers each, couple of 100 views each. are just getting looked at and getting likes and getting favorited and coming back again and again and again in people's activity streams. And I think that's, I mean, it's not measurable, you know, it doesn't show up in any figures, but I do think it's really significant. I think the other thing about, and this probably applies more to you than most people, Gary, actually, is the way that influence works, as opposed to just view counts and just subscription lists. Because you can't really track it influence. There's not, apart from, you know, looking to see how many people like your video, or seeing how many times. Actually, you can't see how many times it's been favorited, can you? I think. But apart from looking at those kind of figures, there's no way of tracking influence directly. But certainly, I can see waves of interest moving through my activity stream and moving through the people that are interested, that I subscribe to. And quite often the person who started that wave of interest is not the person who's getting the most views. You know, it's like you throw a stone in the pond and the ripples very soon move away from their point of origin and get bigger and bigger as they move away from that point. So the influence of that initial stone, that initial point on the pond's surface, is enormous, even though in itself it's quite small. It's not a great analogy, is it? If you know what I mean. Yeah, so again, it's a shame that there's no measure of that. You know, even in more formal circles, you know, like scientific papers or something. You know, some of the most seminal scientific papers got hardly any readership at all. You know, Gödel's incompleteness theorem, which I was looking at recently, theory of mathematics, one of the most influential mathematical theories in the entire 20th century. Hardly anybody read it when it first came out. I'd hardly touched the sides. And the same thing with the paper on special relativity that Einstein wrote. You know, very, very small readership, but it influenced a bunch of people. They gathered more readership. Those readers influenced and went on to influence other people. So the ripples went far and wide from that. Really, it is a bit of a shame though that obviously in those cases you can't track back to the original source, which you can't do, of course, in YouTube. But I do think that a lot of people are missing out on the recognition of how these influences work. And I think you're quite influential in that sense, Gary. You know, a lot of people look at your videos, or a lot of people who the people who look at your videos tend to be influenced by them. And I would absolutely say I'm one of those people. And it goes on to influence what kind of things come up in other people's videos, including my videos. So it is a bit of a shame that the numbers don't crunch quite so nicely. And now here we are at the wind farm.